So we're going to go ahead and this time speak about something. First of all, do a spot for talking about fostering. Hopefully everyone can foster shelter animals. Hopefully everyone can, if they have the ability, the space to take on a fostering situation so that they can give shelters a break from having so much overload of pets there, and help the animals for sure in the process, and help the people from having animals around. And hopefully it's a cyclical value system. So quick little plug there. And then also the Dinky Tehc brokerage, quick little plug there. More on that later. So this little podcast chat scenario is regarding having a focus on networking and the backside value of net worth equals net work. That's sort of a saying, and in essence what that's sort of an allusion to for typically is a correspondence to money. So the value there is related to actual funds. Like if you, in theory, that saying conceptualizes like putting down the network and then adding it up based on people's net worth. And then therefore you get your net worth in a certain respect. It's like a reflection of your net worth based upon that number. Whereas I completely was going to just sort of not disagree, but just sort of try to focus on or allude to the concept of like a tree. There's a network of roots. And in essence, that's what I was talking about here is like, the root network is the net worth. That's not what the sort of saying is referring to at first glance. Like it's sort of, again, speaking to money and adding up, or even whatever, the money value of the people in the network portfolio. Whereas the genuine network, if you have a thorough business network and people that you speak to and interact with, engage with, that are able to connect with you and are willing to work with you in a collaborative sense or otherwise, have a root network, meaning a depth, an essence of not like pipes that are under their business that are foundationally created and are a unique system that they created as a business. And if they're connected to a business, for example, all those pipes are connected to that person in essence, and therefore it's like root networks, but it spans the whole world because it's all relationships that connect in that sense. And it's not money related. Money does relate to those businesses for sure, but it's not the aggregate of the money, of the value that relates to those people. To me, it's the network of roots that's underneath the people. And that in essence is something that's more so like metaphysical, because it's an essence of thinking like before even having a network, similar with like a portfolio in investing. You kind of want to be conscious of where you're going with it, why you're doing it, what's the purpose to begin with, because that just helps with direction of who to talk to and why, based on the character traits of each person or personality within that financial portfolio or otherwise, whether it's attention portfolio that also relates to the people that you give attention to in your world. That's where the root networks are worth acknowledging, because the networks that are behind them are hopefully can align with the directions that you like, maybe extra, someone might want to align with. And that's an interesting way to create a network, to create a net worth on the back end of that, whereas also it's valuing not just money, but it's valuing the direction of, a person and where they want to go and how they want to interact with the backside of any given root networks in the world. For example, any company in the world, if you just look at their audience, you can see where in the world they are to a degree, and then how or why you would want to align with that company for that reason. Because they resonate with your personality, they can resonate with the direction that you would want to go, they can resonate with, as a whole, just the, overall interest to have a root network that would be similar to theirs, and to try to imitate them, like in the sense of where, like their tunnels all lead to. Like their tunnels are all communication as a company, and as a brand, it takes time and effort and energy to build those tunnels, to build those new root networks, like ants. If you think of ants, their little networks are massive, and it's literally something in a similar, respect, I think, in terms of a physical analogy, to conceptualize the roots, the network pipes, to differing energies in the world. And it's a very custom branded network that's similar to ants. Each ant farm has their own style of digging and where they're digging and where they're located and stuff. So it's all very custom, in terms of networking and people and the necessarily the fundamental energies that are behind that. And like, it's just sort of unique to think about it on the front end, as opposed to looking at people and their network and trying to judge that, but then they're therefore taking a step back and conceptualizing how to build a network based upon that as the result on the backside, in essence. So like focusing on the result that one might want to achieve, and then trying to populate a network that revolves around that based on people that have existing interests that pre-existing align with that sort of, vibration, energy, for lack of better words, and or connections with the rest of the world in a similar fashion, because it's just it's a lot of depth. It's just very interesting to look at things that way. And sometimes I teach myself things while I talk about it, because it's something that I think was aligning with some values that I was trying to, align with myself, to be able to try to build a better network and such, because you want to hire slow, if you will, or connect with people slow. So it's ideal to just get deep into the mental depiction of the root networks in terms of the front end, before actually having a network, because once, you only have so much attention in the day, and it's valuable. So being able to look into mentally the root networks of what conceptually surrounds people before you even try to develop relationships with people is an interesting way to try to conceptually try to align with folks based on that, in terms of factoring in the energy. It's definitely not just looking at their financial portfolio and just being like, cool, yeah, I would like that much money. It's definitely not that. And that's what I guess the purpose of this podcast is to just try to acknowledge, if you're wanting to do business with different ant farms, you're just kind of looking at every different ant farm's root network, literally. If you had the ability to look underground with x-ray vision glasses, for example, and you were shopping around talking to different ant farms, because you wanted to conceptually be a part of that root network or utilize it for one reason or another to be able to facilitate some form of energy flow or exertion or a result to try to achieve based on having an aligned, network of pipes, basically, to be able to facilitate similar interests, or ambitions in terms of results in business, for lack of better words, or in the, just in results after all. And that's why it's just kind of worthwhile, because at first it's just kind of a mentality thing where it's you're talking about money. It's just money. And really it's just kind of the concept that it's really not really just about money, and that there's a lot more to be able to expand upon, to be able to just try to foundationally build a network so that you're focusing on the roots as opposed to the net worth aspect of it. And so it's just a little peculiar after all, again, to try to teach myself as I say this so that hopefully it's I can follow it, try to, after all, somehow. And it's not always possible or transparent to see the networks either, after all. You can't always have x-ray vision glasses. I did see one time there was a experiment where they poured a bunch of concrete in a giant ant farm scenario, and it was really massive. It went really deep, and I don't know how they recovered it or excavated it or something to that effect, I think is what they did, for what it's worth. And it was really, really massive. And it's really interesting. So some ant farms could be little and some could be massive, but there's got to be ways to be able to etch into that, look into that, and try to align, again, depending on values, interests, focus, back-end interests in terms of results, to try to align with people. And I might even be kind of teaching myself as I'm speaking about it, because it's difficult on the back end to try to look into those things on the front end, is what I guess I meant. It's difficult on the front end to look into those things for a back end result. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, somewhat. You can find things about companies and yada, yada, yada. Then you can go into LinkedIn and you can connect with people from those companies. For example, I guess that's a simple way. So that's sort of the bottom line, because we started with changing the analogy, focusing on network doesn't equal net worth in terms of money. It equals root network, which is a lot more interesting and important because business is a people game anyway, and you want to connect with the right energy that connects to the right people that align with the personalities that are trying to build networks. And, you know, on the back end of it, it's like, hopefully this is useful to be able to build a network. You know, like if there's not an existing network and you want to increase your net worth, meaning your net worth of potential, meaning like even if you have a high net worth network, you still need to exercise some form of action to be able to facilitate some value on the back end for one's personal gain or self, to be able to facilitate a value to be, you know, near a valuable network to begin with. So therefore, anyways, hopefully this is just a little insert thought concept, if you will, to try to inspire developing networks based upon researching root networks and trying to find similar interesting ways to connect with the rest of the world somehow by happen chance, by just conceptually seeing what aligns on the sense of what roots can connect to other places in the world that you might have an ambition to connect with, and then therefore thereby might by accident, you know, make positive change on the planet and for other people to benefit from, perhaps after all. All right, thanks again. Dinky Tehc, peace.